Hi. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Yinglan.
Hey,
nice
good
to
morning.
see you in person, finally.
Yes.
We
Thanks for having me here.
we don't have much time, but I'd like to run through a quick introduction of yourself. First, you were the first employee of Sequoia in Southeast Asia, and then in 2017, you founded Insignia Venture Capital. I pronounce it the Italian way. It's Insignia, is that correct, right?
That's correct. Actually, it's named after a wine. So we started Insignia in 2017. Our first fund was 120 million, followed by 200 million in 2020, and then we now are investing 500 million from our fund 3 in Southeast Asia. We just invested 10 million in a Thai company called Combi. So actually I was a bit late because I just came from a board meeting. But I see some friends in the audience, so good to be here.
Great, thanks for expanding a bit on what I just say for your introduction. I would like to get started by perhaps talking about your investments in general, perhaps a pie chart of the verticals where you guys have invested. What are the sectors that you see most promising?
Yeah, so I think 85% is what we would describe as, marketplaces, e-commerce, logistics, payments. We are quite strong in Fintech. We earmark 15% for Web3, blockchain generally. But I think generally we don't try to earmark where we invest. We let the founders tell us where we invest because they are the forefronts of the industry, right? So we find great founders, they find great industries to invest in, to build companies in.
Cool, thanks for sharing. I come from a startup previously in financial inclusion. Is it something that you are doing? Is it something that is finally being bridged? We've been hearing about bridging the gap between financial institution and unbanked or underbanked population. Southeast Asia, in other region of Asia, perhaps South Asia. What do you think about financial inclusion?
We love the sector because we have a company in Indonesia called FAAS. So they are essentially the bank for the unbanked, right? And they have 200,000 agents serving second, third tier cities in Indonesia. We think that's a massive opportunity, like agents providing banking services to the unbanked. The rural citizens give them cash, they give them top-up, lending services, peer-to-peer transfer. We think that's a big trend. It has happened in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Bcash, M-Pesa. So I think for rural villages in Southeast Asia, I think that's a sector we're quite bullish on.
Cool, thanks for sharing that. We're also seeing quite a lot of innovation happening in Fintech. What do you see as the main trends that are coming out from Fintech innovations?
So one of our companies actually announced last week they just raised 100 million, Aspire, which is in one sentence, Amex for SMEs. So, if an SME wants to apply for Amex, the Amex will turn you down because you're not creditworthy. I think there's a lot of financial innovation for SMEs and for micro merchants, right? Because I think majority of Southeast Asia is made out of micro merchants. So they need banking services, they need credit lines. So Aspire does that. Especially, we're quite bullish about in financial inclusion. Payments is a sector that we're very bullish on. And generally, we like digital bank. So we have a digital bank in Philippines called Tonic. We were the seed investor. Now they also raised 100 million from Mizuho. They're the fastest growing digital bank globally, even if you benchmark against new banks. And they have the biggest deposit among all the new age digital banks. And no one likes to go to a bank branch, right? So Tonic sort of serves their purposes to reduce the need for people to go to a bank branch, but just conduct banking services digitally.
We've been hearing about AI quite a lot recently with Chat GPT, Midjourney, and plenty of other services. What is your take on the growth of AI in multiple fields, from search to financial inclusion to credit score to anything else financial related, or marketplaces as well?
Yeah, we are very bullish. So I was on the board of a company called Appier. They just went public in the Tokyo Stock Exchange, 150 million AR. They launched a US business in 1 year, 20 million AR USD. So we think this new sort of advent of ChatGPT is quite interesting. If you think about the 3 areas, right? Just to name 3, insurance, usually done very traditionally, right? So imagine you have a big call center, help desk, selling insurance. But with ChatGPT, it does this digitally. Like it does this, it reduces the number of agents you need for call centers. Second application is legal services, right? If let's say you have a prenuptial agreement, you have to go get a lawyer to look up a prenuptial agreement, but ChatGPT at least does 80% of the work. You still need a lawyer to look through it, but that is great. The third one is actually education, right? So my kid actually does Duolingo every day. So you have personalized education. You use ChatGPT to, instead of a tutor that's constrained by his time, you can use ChatGPT to actually learn a language. So I think these are the three or four use cases that we think are quite interesting.
How about software as a service, as a business model? Do you see that one being consolidated?
I think it's quite interesting, except that the multiples have compressed. So last year, SaaS was trading 100 times. Then it dropped 20. Now it's like, on average, US publicly listed SaaS companies are trading at about 5.6 times, which is quite brutal. And I do think that actually in Southeast Asia, SME owners are less willing to pay for software, right? So we think that the opportunity set is actually in like Vietnamese engineers making SaaS products, but they sell to developed markets like Korea, like US, or Indian companies headquartered in Singapore selling to developed markets like US and Europe. So I think that's where the SaaS nexus is.
There has been also a bit of reshuffling in terms of talents. Like you mentioned Vietnam. Vietnam probably 5-6 years ago was a safe place to go, very affordable. But now you will find that some of the salaries that you pay for tech developers with niche skills are growing, are becoming less affordable. And so it seems like the market for engineers is moving away partially from Vietnam into other areas. Where do you think the new...
I agree. We are probably the only VC fund that has engineers on our payroll. So we have Vietnam engineers. They're very good, very hardworking, but I do agree the cost has gone up. So we're seeing actually great engineering centers in Taiwan, Bangladesh, Pakistan. But I would like to say the ideal company we like to invest in is actually Singapore headquartered Vietnam engineers because they are strong, and a lot of them has actually started Chinese engineering base because there's a big state of layoffs in Chinese consumer tech especially. So and Taiwan as well, and Poland companies. I think the Polish engineers are very good. So I think we see some of our companies adopting multi-prong, multi-center engineering hubs.
Cool. Can we talk about Web3 for a while?
Yeah. As I mentioned, we allocated 15% of our fund to Web3. We made a number of investments, HQ.xyz, which is a backend for Web3 developers. We have a AAA payments, which is a Web3 payment rails. So we like actually the infrastructure bits of Web3. You think about Web3, there's 4 clusters, right? There's the DeFi, which I think is regulated, all these FTX. So we try not to go there. There's GameFi, which is interesting. MFT, NFT. Then there's infrastructure. That's probably the area that we're most active on. And then there's sort of the Web 2 to Web 3 interface. So I think the bulk of our activity is the Web 2 to Web 3, Web 2.5, and the infrastructure piece.
Thanks for sharing. You mentioned HQ is one of the projects that we also have invested as DWF Labs, so we are co-invested to find out.
Great.
Today, actually, we were featured on Tech in Asia. We co-led an investment in YGG together with A16Z.
Nice.
And so you mentioned gaming. Definitely, we are bullish on gaming as well. Yesterday, I was going through the one-to-one pitches. I had the opportunity to talk to 6 different projects. It seems like there is a brewing interest in Thailand also for technology, Web3, and a community of startups that are trying to look for solutions for the local market and start from here to expand to the rest of the region. One last word on HealthTech, perhaps?
We are very bullish. We have a number of health investments, and I notice time is running down. I'll just mention 2. One is a very interesting called East Healthcare, which is focusing on women's health. They have a big community of women, female health, and they also sell commerce and goods. So that's one. And then we have a company that's growing very fast called Intellect, which is a mental health company in Singapore. They're probably all the great logos in multinationals. Actually, due to COVID, a lot of people realize that mental health, you can't take it for granted. So it's one of the now essential employment benefit for multinationals. So that I think is an interesting segment that people ignore. But I think mental health, female health, actually those are interesting overlooked segments that we like.
Thank you, Yinglan. We have 10 seconds for one question from the audience. Anyone wants to ask any question?
Going.
If not, we can wrap it up.
Go on.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It was fun.